New Schools for New Orleans is committed to celebrating the hardworking teachers of New Orleans. Thank you to all the educators who came out to the 4th annual NOLA Teacher Fest at Champion Square. We had over 2,000 attendees. Special thank you to our sponsors, Allstate Sugar Bowl, Entergy New Orleans, Raising Cane's, Align Ed New Orleans, Agenda for Children, and Oshner Children's for their commitment and support. Teachers and school leaders, enjoy the summer break.
New York City is unveiling plans for the Flames of Honor Memorial. Black Queensboro Bridge President Donovan Richards is honored that his borough was chosen for the monument.
These heroes never came back home to their loved ones, and only because of that sacrifice, we as Americans and as New Yorkers live in a safe and secure country.
The memorial will honor about 100 post 9/11 service members killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. Groundbreaking is set for next year. Taylor Taranto, arrested near former President Obama's home in D.C. in 2023, has been found guilty of gun charges and a hoax bomb threat. The ex-Capitol riot defendant live-streamed threats and had weapons in his van. He was pardoned by Trump earlier this year. And the No Tax on Tips Act is headed to the House after it passed unanimously in the Senate yesterday. The bill establishes a new tax deduction of up to $25,000 for tips. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app. Back to Terry McCready.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Wake up, New Orleans. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my birthday super producer, Nyron Sanders. He gonna get it all week, y'all, because he didn't even want us to know he was turning 25. So all week we
quarter century.
Our super producer, and shout out to my co-pilot this morning, D. Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, New Orleans.
So we have a show, dynamic show lined up at the 7:20 mark. We're going to have conversations with our council featuring Councilman Eugene Green. At the top of the 8 o'clock hour, we'll hear from our partners at Oshner and Darren Meyer from Zulu calling in, talking about the men's health event. And at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour, we'll hear from Ben Winger from the New Orleans Health Department, their Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit Program Coordinator, and Taisha Davis, Director of the MCIU, also talking about mental health is such an important topic, and we have some professionals and experts here to give us all the information. But right now, Will and I are going to dive into the council meeting that took place on yesterday. It was an emergency. It was a standard meeting that was kind of altered for a jailbreak update to hear directly from the sheriff and her team, directly from Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick and her team, because she was also scheduled to present at the standard meeting. She had to kind of give some, and she was before the council longer than I expected her to be.
Right. Even though she did a short version of the prepared presentation.
Well, because the majority of the conversations and the questions were geared
about
the jailbreak, which she didn't really have answers for. She's just a partner in this. She's just helping to apprehend them. She doesn't have the kind of information that the public was looking for, which that's where Sheriff Susan Hudson came in. And so we heard from Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick first, and then the sheriff and her team took their place, and then we also heard from Gilbert Montano for the
financials.
But it didn't. I mean, that conversation to me didn't bear any fruit, because a lot of the the points he was making, he said, and which I didn't know, that the city was operating from a 2023 budget. And the young lady at the table, I'm assuming she's the finance person
chief financial officer
for the sheriff. She was saying all of those numbers you're talking about come from the 2023 budget. We're in 2025. But then he says we're all operating from the 2023 budget. So then that made me question, like, well, why is she speaking as if the numbers he's presenting aren't germane to the topic? It was just a whole bunch of... I felt like I left with more questions than answers, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, a big part of this is is money. It's money. So part of his point was how much money the sheriff's office has been giving, and that it's been given more money than the fire department, the police department, and other law enforcement agencies or units in the city on a percentage basis. So that's a legitimate point to know. And there was also the point about what's in your reserve, and about $14 million in reserve. And the sheriff's office says most of that is restricted. The CEO was saying it's like, I don't think that's the way you can manage that money. You can manage that money differently. So, of course, they got a little tempers flared over that because they had a difference of financial philosophy about how to handle reserve funds. And, of course, the meeting was more about the jailbreak overall. But Sheriff Hudson's point was this is about money, and it is about our city responsibility for those people who are housed. Short term was what the building was constructed for, but more and more we have longer term stays.
Well, there are quite a few things that stuck out for me, and the highlight for me came from Freddie King, Councilman Freddie King, and he made the statement
I know what you're talking about.
we illuminate here on the show all the time about being proactive in certain situations. And to the councilman's point, he's saying all of this is expensive. It's expensive to incarcerate people. It's expensive to be on the back end trying to, police them on the back end. But what do we do to prevent them from going to prison or jail in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, that was one of the highlights. So I'm going to set Councilman Freddie King's statement aside for a second, because another thing that was glaring for me as I sat there is this idea that Freddie King also said it. Everything needs money. I just thought about it. He said that too. Everything needs money. He said if we take from other things to give to the jail, then it's going to leave another project in dire constraints, right? But my question in my brain was, if this is a state facility, as I continue to keep hearing, then why can't any money come from the state?
And that was Councilman Green's point yesterday.
I'm just asking, why are we, if they want control of it so bad, then fund it? You just gave $39 million to a juvenile facility called the Renaissance, making it sound like a vacation away from home. So in my mind, as I'm sitting there, if the sheriff has been continuously saying these things need to be upgraded, fixed, so that we can have a safer place to house these individuals who are in transition, then why do we wait for disaster to strike to then act as if now it's a crisis? Because what I also learned was that they immediately moved 20 people when the jailbreak happened.
Right.
So why weren't those 20 people our priority to move prior to the jailbreak?
That was one of the paragraphs in my column. It's like, wait a minute. So now we can move people?
Now we can move them.
Now we can move
with
people.
With ease, seemingly.
Quickly.
So, I mean, these are the quiet things that we're not hearing about. You have to be in certain rooms and hear the totality of it.
It doesn't make the headlines, but it's important.
It's very important.
I mean, whether it was 2 people who were moved, how could you do that so fast when otherwise you're fussing about the procedure, the processes?
But also, too, I wanted to know that I still have not gotten the answer to, and I really want to know it, and I'm just gonna be very, very frank when I say this, and I said it yesterday. Everybody that wear your uniform ain't playing for the same team, and that was glaring to me on yesterday. But you know, I just don't understand how we can make such moves so quickly, but people are begging for resources and begging for upgrades and things of that nature. But the question that I went there trying to understand and I left there still in the dark about is this idea of how we count. Because if we're counting with a protocol, there's no way 8 hours can lapse and you don't know a person is not where they're supposed to be. I still don't know what took place between 1 something in the morning and 8:44 a.m. I just don't know. And a question that was asked, I believe, from Councilwoman Helena Moreno was, or JP, one of them asked about first meal, because apparently our first meal happens at 5 something in the morning, 5:30.
Yeah, they have to do
in the morning.
meal shifts.
So no, it's a shift at 6:30, but they do first meal at 5 something, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if you're doing a meal at 5 something, how can that man sit there and tell us that they didn't do a count at 5? How do you not know who you're feeding? How many people are eating? Like this just doesn't make sense to me. So it begs the question for me is what are the protocols? And I keep asking that. Because if it's a protocol, then anybody that's on the shift follows it. It's not you do what you want when you come to work. I do what I want when I come to work. No, it is protocol and it's there for safety reasons.
Right.
You're feeding people at 5:30, but you don't know how many are in there. That's not acceptable. And this is the folk who are tasked with big titles, doing big jobs, and they're not being able to give us direct answers, and that frustrates me. Somebody asks you a direct question, I feel like I'm talking to folk working at the White House because they say all those words and don't tell us the answers to anything. If you're feeding folk at 5:30, whatever time that was, how do you not know a count at that point? How do you only count at 6:30 in the morning and 6:30 p.m.? I'm not satisfied with that. There is no reason to only count two times a day. Because what you've taught those being housed there is that nobody's coming to check for you for 12 hours, right? Once we get checked at 6:30, we have free reign until 6:30 in the morning. But even if you did a count at 6:30 in the morning, how is it that y'all don't notify your boss, who is Sheriff Susan Hudson, till 9 a.m.?
So here's the updated timeline. Because we keep talking about timeline, and timeline is really important. What you're talking about is a part of the timeline, and more specifically, what happens at what time.
Is what you're getting ready to read to me going to tell me why they told their boss, Sheriff Susan Hudson, at 9 a.m. if you did a count at 6:30?
And that's part of the point. That is part of the point. So the latest updated timeline. 12:33 a.m., 10 inmates escaped by tampering with a lock and breaching the wall at the jail. 12:33 a.m., 12:23 a.m. 1:01 a.m., the inmates scale the jail wall and flee across I-10. 1:01 a.m. 8:30 a.m., inmates discovered missing during routine hit count. 9:30 a.m., federal, state, and public agencies notified.
Can we pause there?
Yeah.
That doesn't jive with what we heard yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They told us that a count is done at shift change. The shift changes at 6:30 in the morning is what the guy said.
Yeah.
And this is not me talking. That's what he said. So if you're doing a count at 6:30, why is the article now saying inmates discovered missing at an 8:30 count?
Because at breakfast, they didn't know they were missing.
But breakfast happened at 5:30.
But they didn't know they were missing.
But also we heard that it takes, an hour? They told us an hour?
Up to an hour.
Up to an hour.
When the count isn't right.
Okay, so I'm going to give you 5:30, you didn't know. I'm going to give you 6:30, so at 7:30?
You didn't know.
Which is an hour after you say the shift change and you do the initial count. And all of this doesn't happen with Sheriff Susan Hudson present.
That's correct.
Right?
She should be able to rely on people to do their jobs.
So you don't tell her until 9 a.m. Now, what I did like that she did that I didn't like that she didn't do on the beginning is she opened up with taking full accountability.
She did.
For it.
Yeah.
Because that's what that should have been the first sentence that came out of her mouth from the onset of this. Right? And that's the thing I did not like. Just own it, because heavy is the head that wears the crown. You got to take all the good with all of the not so good. Take accountability. We know you weren't notified till 9, but you still have to own it for the public and say what you said at the table should have came out of her mouth from jump.
Yeah,
So
there's no
there's
question about that. But I
still
was pleased, and I think enough.
Yeah.
I mean, the room was quiet.
Yes, it
when
was.
she
They
said
wanted
that.
to-
It
they
was
wanted-
like
they wanted to hear that.
I'm sure she realized that if she went there, and those words or words like them didn't come out of her mouth at some point, it was going to be an entirely different session.
Well, it still was a bit volatile up in there.
It was.
But I do appreciate the words that came from her mouth from the moment she opened her mouth.
Absolutely.
And I believe that if those were the words that came out from the onset of this, the public's reaction to this could have been different. But it's this idea that we have people who are guiding us in certain ways and making, and that we need to be very, very careful about how we approach certain things when, to me, there is a collective responsibility. Is she our first point of accountability? Absolutely. She's the sheriff of the jail. Mm-hmm. Yes. But is there accountability to be had collectively from all stages of this thing? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Because I still want to know whose job was it to notify her. Who is the person that runs the jail? Was he there? Because what was the guy's title? Was he the chief of the jail? Like I can't remember.
No, he was chief of security, deputy chief of security, something like that. I don't have
something like that.
Yeah, right.
So,
but in charge of the security at the jail.
So to me, my question, and I just need to know who was in charge of the jail, who was the leader at 12:30 in the morning till 8:30 in the morning. Who was the leader? Somebody's in charge. Somebody's the person you go to when things are going on or going wrong and you need to notify a member of leadership. Somebody's there. Who is that person?
And she addressed that. She and her team addressed that, but they addressed it this way. There's more that we know, but we're conducting an investigation and we don't want to breach the investigation. So there are things we can't share with you today.
If I could know that the maintenance man is alleged to have turned water off because he was being threatened with physical violence if he didn't, if I can know that, I should be able to know who was the person in charge from 12:30 to 8:30. Because my question to that person would be, why did you think it was okay to not notify her the very second that you found out that the count was off? I don't know. I don't care how much the count is off. Tell her. It could be off by 1. Tell her. Why do we wait till 9 a.m. to notify the boss of the prison? That's what I want to know. Because from her testimony, the moment she knew, within the next, half hour, she was talking to everybody she's supposed to be talking to, per the testimony. But the problem is not when you found out. The problem is the 8 hours before you knew. That is the time that these folk had to pull a toilet from a wall. And I'm still going to say this. I do not for 1 second believe all them people went through that hole in the wall. I just don't. So that
how do you think they got out?
I don't know. I'm just looking with my eyes. I'm just, that to me, them people got out far too quickly for. That's we putting.
Okay, so you think there's some
we
other,
putting squares into circles?
You think there's other video that we haven't seen or another escape route before they got to the delivery deck?
I believe that this thing was organized to the point of 10 people went undetected from a jail for 8+ hours. And that is a breach in protocol on a multitude of levels, not one.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just like, how do you turn the water off and nobody knows the water is off? I don't know. Was it only to that particular cell or that particular wing of the cell? I just don't know. I have so many questions, and I really went to that meeting because I really wanted so many answers. But
I think we got some more answers.
What
but
answers did you get?
Well, I got the answer to the question about when the chief found out, and the chief didn't find out until
we knew that
almost
before we went
10:30.
to the meeting.
Well, we knew that here.
Yeah.
WBOK.
Yeah, we
but
knew
as
that.
the general public, I
So
don't
that's
think we
what
knew that before
No,
she
I
came
think-
on air yesterday morning.
I think from the onset of this thing, that was the question. They were asking her when did she know, and that's how I found out that she didn't know. I knew that before I went to the meeting. I don't know the answers to the pertinent questions that I had when I went, which was my reason for going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to know who was supposed to be in charge at the time. I think it's important to know who was responsible for doing the count. I think it's important to know where does that count go once you get it? Who do you tell that the count is off? Like, what is the protocol? Because I can tell you protocols were breached, and I don't even know the protocol. I just know there's no way 8 hours can lapse before you tell your boss. That's unacceptable. And to me, you know, I'm aware of the head of accountability, but I'm gonna make certain that you feel me for having to wear this. That's what I'm gonna do as a leader, because you're not about to do that to me. I have to be able to trust the people I leave in charge when I step away from the building.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we have gotten to the point of understanding anything more in depth. But you got a whole article about it, and I mean, I'm gonna ask the questions, and maybe you can answer me.
Yeah. Well, you know, we got to go to break. It's 7:21. But real quickly, Sterling Williams is the maintenance worker who's accused of helping, and his attorney said that he did it under fear from one of the inmates who escaped, who said he was going to beat him.
I want to talk about Sterling Williams when I come back. We're going to go to break to hear
and
word.
they did get a fifth.
Five of them have been apprehended.
Got them last night over in Iberville.
Yeah,
All right.
we're gonna go to break here. Word from my sponsors, and we come back. We're gonna talk about Sterling Williams and more about the council meeting that took place, and more about the jail break. We're on the Associated Press this morning, and if you want to call to join the conversation, it's 504-582-9422. This is WBOK 1230 AM. What New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
Good morning and happy Wednesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. Louisiana State Police capture another escaped inmate, meaning 5 of the 10 are still on the run this morning. Troopers found 19-year-old Corey Boyd in the Iberville neighborhood last night. That's not far from the city's French Quarter. We're told Boyd was found near an apartment building. So far, all 5 recaptured inmates have been found in New Orleans. And Governor Jeff Landry had this message on social media after the latest arrest, saying, quote, "Halfway there, we will not slow down. You will all be captured." And those words coming as an audit of the Orleans Parish Justice Center gets underway this week. Attorney General Liz Murrill says that audit will investigate the jail's operations, its staffing, and overall security. We're told there are 119 standards the jail will be rated on, and it will be deemed either compliant or non-compliant. There's no timeline on when those results will be released. Finally, the New Orleans Police Department is looking for leads after a man was shot in the Desire neighborhood. This happened off Chef Mentor Highway near France Road just after 9:30 last night. Police say a man was shot and taken to the hospital by EMS. No other details about a suspect or the victim were given. If you have any information about this shooting or the whereabouts of those escaped inmates, call Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. That's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by FidelityWealthManagement.com. Sports valuations are skyrocketing, and so are the number of big money investors looking to get a piece of a team. But is that recent rush into sports causing team valuations to go too high? Rashawn Williams, a successful venture capitalist and person of color, is among a group of investors launching a new private equity fund seeking to take small stakes in U.S. sports teams. And he spoke to Bloomberg about why he's not worried about private equity firms pushing team valuations higher than they should be.
On the cover, it appears that more private equity coming in is going to drive the prices up. But if you peel back the layers, you'll see private equity is not allowed to own majority stakes in most of these leagues, just minority stakes. They're all capped at small percentages that private equity can own. So the majority stakes and the control owners of these teams are still families. They're still individuals. They set the price.
Williams is also a limited partner in the NFL's Atlanta Falcons. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner. on the Black Business Beat.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies the same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
NOLA Public Schools is excited for the rest of this 24-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars attend today, achieve tomorrow.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
And we are back. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. We're going to go straight to the phone line for a second. Councilman, I'm coming for you. Give me 1 second. Good morning, Brother Mims. How are you? And I apologize for the delay. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Opportunity and the pleasure to serve on a pro board with the late Captain Blanco for 5 years, and I was with the civil sheriff, and I spent time in the jails out there, but back there. But let me say this to you. I think we should hold our comments until they got the whole story ain't been told, because that's why I'm glad that it's always time. It's always best to hold your comments until, because they're going there's more to this than what the eyes see.
Thank you, Brother Mims. I appreciate you. Thank you for your call, and thank you for the work that you do on behalf of community. Listen, I'm one of those people that no matter what, I'm gonna respect an elder. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do that. But this is what I will say. This is a talk radio show. We talk here. We talk about things that are in the news. We have big opinions. I know I have big opinions about them, and I don't know about holding comments as much as we're talking about the issues and asking pertinent questions. And I absolutely agree with you, Brother Mims, that is more to the story. That's why we're asking questions. And I am very mindful of the types of questions I ask and the kind of commentary I give when the issue calls for sensitivity. I don't ever speak in haste when children die, or in Kyron Lacey's case when he committed suicide. I was very sensitive around that issue, and I'm going to be, because that's a life or death conversation. But this conversation right here could possibly lead to life or death consequences if we don't get these people off the street, right? And so it's very important to have a robust conversation. It's very important to have commentary on things when it's news. The nation is talking about this story, not just here in New Orleans, and we have questions.
Yeah.
So I do absolutely respect your perspective, but I think in order for us to inform the public, which is part of our duty here at WBOK, we have to talk on issues. And sometimes
and ask questions
yes,
that we know
and
other people have
about it. Yeah, because everybody doesn't have a microphone, and we can't amplify everybody's voice. So we have a platform. People can call in. People can drop information in the chat. But it's our jobs here to amplify that because we have the mic in front of us. And so, yes, I do understand what you're saying about there's more to the story, but we can still talk about what part of the story we supposedly have access to already.
And you're absolutely right about more to the story. And now we have multiple investigations, and there will be conclusions of those investigations at some point. But reality is that's going to be weeks and months
And
off.
guess what? We still gonna have commentary about the investigation.
Yeah,
We still
right.
gonna talk
All
about
right,
it.
we got Councilman
Yeah,
Green.
but right now, connect me, producer. But hey, good morning,
morning.
Councilman. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. How are you this morning?
Just fine, Mr. Sutton, Dr. Wiley. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all and to those who are listening.
Yeah, so I saw you at the in council chambers yesterday, and I knew you were coming, and I wanted to take a moment, Will and I, to just kind of see if we can, make some headway of what did the meeting produce for us as it relates to the jailbreak. What do we know now that we didn't know prior to the meeting?
Well, I think that we know now that the sheriff started off with saying that it was an acknowledgement that there was a failure, that beyond politics, beyond the election, beyond other things, that there was a failure that needed to be addressed. And I think that we certainly had a lively discussion relative to budgeting. A lot of people don't really kind of know that there are many agencies that the city provides money to that aren't technically city agencies. For example, the budget of the sheriff's office may be approved, but it includes a lot of money that comes from the state. And it was brought out yesterday that the audit is being done by the state, because the state does the audit, because technically the sheriff's office, all of its employees are not city employees and the like. It has more connection to the state of Louisiana, but the city taxpayers provide a lot of money, $65 million a year, to house inmates and to provide various services. And when there's a question relative to budget, there should not be any hesitation whatsoever. I'm a strong supporter of and completely confident in what we call the brass system of the city of New Orleans. It was brought up yesterday that the sheriff should potentially be within that brass system, just as all the police, fire, public works, sanitation, and the like. If we're going to write the money, if we were going to write the checks, if you will, or provide the funding, and we have a successful system that no one else has a problem with, I think that we heard yesterday that there is room for the sheriff's office to be a part of that system, which will allow greater access by the public and also greater access by those providing the fund.
Councilman, Councilman,
there
seems to be a fundamental philosophical disagreement about this. This is one of those cases where it appears that every single city council member agrees with what you're saying, that the sheriff's office and others, but sheriff's office should be a part of the brass system.
Everybody's part of it except for the sheriff and the DA.
Well, no, I'm talking about every single council member. Yeah, and the DA office is not a part of the brass system. I believe there are indications that they may be, but the sheriff has argued against that based on state law for several years now, and she did it again yesterday. And in part, she and the CFO from OPSO were saying that brass is too outdated for the additional things that they have to do. So,
well, no,
how do you and other?
Well, no, I don't agree with that. I mean, look, there's not additional things that the sheriff's office has to do that the police don't do, that the Department of Public Works don't do. We oversee expenditures relative to a variety of means. Inventory, for example. I mean, we have inventory throughout the city of New Orleans. I think that it's just always been that way. And at the end of the day, that's the reason that it hasn't been questioned. And maybe this incident was the reason that it's questioned now. Because the sheriff did not say, for example, yesterday at the end that it's absolutely impossible for them to be part of the brass system. There's discussion going on, probably even starting today, about what can be done to integrate the sheriff's office into the brass system. But I don't want to. That was part of the discussion yesterday.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to recognize that we talked about the fact that the law enforcement community is working together, if you will, to apprehend those who are on the loose at this time. We also talked about other issues that were important in terms of what could have been done. Now, what we did here yesterday was the obvious, that there's an investigation going on. We heard that there were arrests, at least one arrest and multiple suspensions that have taken place. So it was kind of a rehashing of some of the things that we know, but I think it was a more public forum than we've had before, and there were was probably a lot more information shared. At the end of the day, I also want to just emphasize to those who have been victimized by those who are on the loose right now that there is support for you, and there's a number of organizations that can help. I encourage you to recognize that the Family Justice Center and also the Orleans Parish Sheriff Office and the Orleans Parish District Attorney have victim support systems that could be available to you. Don't hesitate to call to ask what can be done if you're feeling threatened or if there's been an incident that involves you that we should be aware of. And the New Orleans Police Department.
What's one thing you heard from the police chief that you hadn't heard before? What's one thing you heard from the sheriff that you hadn't heard before about this jailbreak?
About the jailbreak, I've heard so much. I got to be honest with you. In my position, it would not necessarily be fair for me to say it was something new. And just like I emphasized with the police chief on yesterday, and I'm only saying that because it wasn't necessarily new to me, but I'm an elected official who's been at multiple press conferences so that's just what I want to say. Not anything new. But I will say this, let's go back to brass. I did hear from the sheriff's office yesterday that it's not impossible for the sheriff's office to be part of the brass system. So that's important. It's important to recognize. I also maybe heard yesterday how the chief actually got the information, and it was through another party who told her. It wasn't a direct
The
call
Fusion Center.
from the sheriff's office. What'd you say?
It was the Fusion Center.
Yeah, I just knew that it was through someone who talked to a representative of the department who talked to her. But the Fusion Center was brought in yesterday. But I knew that there had been communications from someone prior to her getting the communication from the sheriff's office. So, but remember, I've seen and heard a lot since Friday. So it was an opportunity for the public to hear some of the things that we kind of know already.
Has any of the changes that the sheriff has been asking for in terms of locks on doors and upgrades, just as they've moved 20 people in a blink of an eye, have they been in there to make the repairs to make the jail safer in the wake of the jailbreak?
No, the sheriff's office just said that they need $13 million to do an enhancement to make it more like a maximum security facility, to take care of locks, to take care of.
Well, no, hold on, Councilman. I nothing I heard them requesting would make it more like a maximum security prison. What I heard them say was the things that are not operable are things that they've been kind of expressing over time that needed to be upgraded or needed to be shored up. So, I mean, fixing a lock is not necessarily making it like a maximum security prison because it's a jail. It's not intended to be a maximum security prison. It's supposed to be a transitional space for people who are waiting to have their cases heard.
Yes.
So I wouldn't want people who are waiting, and more often, sometimes people are there unjustly. I wouldn't want them to be waiting in a maximum security prison. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is those simple things that she's been saying needed to be shored up. Because there was even some question about how she can spend her reserve money. There's $14 million in reserve. The sheriff's office is under the impression that these monies just like title money or dedicated for specific things, and it can't just be touched arbitrarily. But the council was saying something different.
It's not because of a law, right? Because very honestly, the sheriff also said that she is the sheriff, she operates the jail, and we spend the money. So at the end of the day, is that not the
state law?
The order of operations?
Of course not. So of course not. That would be like saying the police just do what they do, and we provide whatever money they need.
I mean, that's what the sheriff in Jefferson Parish does. So I'm just asking, like, why do we take such great offense to her saying she operates the jail and you guys are the fiduciary agent? I don't think that's anything.
No. That's not what she said. Basically, what she was saying, the way she said it was that we have to make the expenditure according to whatever her need is. And we have on this end a system that allows us to have a meeting, a discussion, and the like, and make a decision based on the money being available.
But Councilman, surely she sends a document, right? Councilman, does she send, like, I understand what you're saying and how you took that. But as a person, Councilman, as a person listening, I'm asking this question, right? This is my question. If she's asking for money, certainly she's not just calling y'all saying, give me this money. Certainly she's providing a budget or something to you guys to show what line items are on there, what expenditure she's asking for. Certainly, she's just not asking for a pot of money without any explanation as to where that money's going to go, right?
But Dr. Wilder, we may not have it. Why is there an assumption that the city council is always
No.
going to be
I'm not making any
every dollar
assumption.
that's
This is a question. Certainly, she's doing that, right? Like when she's asking for this money, is she delivering to you guys a budget to say this is what I need this money for? That's what I'm asking. If she's not doing that, then just say she's not doing that. But what I'm, as a person sitting in that audience, when I heard her say, I run the jail and you guys are supposed to, fund for the needs, I took that to mean I'm telling you guys what my issues are. I've given you the documents to support what my needs are, but my needs are still not being met. Is that not happening?
Right, but you didn't hear all that, for example, with regards to the locks. How much is needed for the locks, in your opinion?
No, that's why I'm a layperson. That's why I'm asking. Is she producing a budget to say?
That has not been presented. For example, how much would it take to get all the locks done so that we don't have any security issues within the jail? No, we don't know. You also heard yesterday that in 2 years, the system that they use right now is going to be obsolete, something that had not been presented to the city council. No, all of those details have not been presented.
That was new information to me.
But Councilman Green, Councilman Green, this is what I want to make very clear. We are not adversaries on this call. Like, I'm just asking questions that I, as a person sitting in the audience, want to know. As a council person, I'm expecting you to give me the information if you have it. If you don't have it, then you don't have it. But I don't want to fight about it. All I'm asking is certainly a person that is asking for all of this money is providing something to the council, because if she's not, then I can understand the energy that she was met with when she made that comment. But if she's providing it, then I don't understand the energy. So that was my question. So I just want to be clear here. You and I are not adversaries. I'm asking a question. Looking for an answer.
The answer is no. The answer is no.
See, so that's clarity, right? Because now I can kind of understand what the energy was. Because prior to that, I didn't know.
Let me give you a little bit more of the energy at the end of the day. Yesterday, we heard that a system that runs the jail is going to be obsolete in 2 years, and that issue hasn't been brought up so far. We're talking about millions of dollars, making an assumption that it's going to be available in a year or so when they ask for it in 2 years. If you know that that's going to be the case, we need to know about it today, because there's an assumption that everything that everyone asked for is going to be available through the city council. And at the end of the day, people know that you ask for certain amounts, and we look at budgetary priorities. The administration submits requests, and all of them can't be met. The police would love to spend a lot more money than they spend now on certain other issues that they don't spend it on now, as with every department. They would love to put much more money into the streets than they're putting into the streets. We would love to have many more sanitation crews out there working. The fact that it's something that you say you need doesn't guarantee that it's going to be available. That's why there needs to be more discussion in advance of what some of the needs are.
So to the point that you're saying that the young lady, I believe she is the CFO, I want to say, she made the statement that the program that they're using is going to be obsolete in the next 2 years. Are you saying that her saying that at that moment is not enough of a heads up for you guys to be able to start to prepare for this thing?
It is not sufficient to simply have a public meeting where it just comes out in some sort of random fashion, as opposed to having a proposal in advance as to how much money is going to be needed. That was not a budget request by her saying that. That was basically saying that we're going to have a calamity in 2 years. Did you hear on yesterday a request for a specific amount to make sure that the system is in place 2 years from now?
We did not, Councilman. Let me ask you this question about that particular piece. She did say it will be obsolete in 2 years. In the last 2 or 3 budget cycles before City Council, has that issue come up during the Sheriff's Office budget presentation and request?
No. I mean, she didn't even say it. My question was, how can you bring something up like this at a public hearing that is so significant that we have not spoken of before?
I'm getting ready to take a call for you, Councilman Green. James, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Councilman Eugene Green.
Good morning, Councilman. Good morning to the WVOK audience, and good morning to y'all, Dr. Wise and co-hosts.
Good morning.
I also did not hear y'all ask her what that budget would look like. I also remember this lady saying way in advance, upon getting into office, look, this jail got some deficiencies. Nobody asked her, what are those deficiencies? She's been on this station, on this show, and on other shows like this show, talking about these deficiencies since she's been in the position. I understand that our government wants to be tough on crime or look like the big bad wolf when it comes down to low-hanging fruit, but I need y'all to get on the same page. This is getting ridiculous.
Thank you, James.
I absolutely agree with you. What happened yesterday was that there was some discussion that we might be on the same page relative to accountability for monies so that people can be able to see what the expenditures are with specifics, not general line items, not 1 or 2 pages. But look, I'll say that the sheriff's office has been, in some respects, fair in this regard in saying that there are problems with the jail, not very necessarily specifically that this is the amount of money that we need that's going to be taking care of the lots. But it's also important to recognize that I also asked yesterday, what about other entities? What about the state of Louisiana? What about grants? The city spends $65 million a year on the sheriff's office, and it's not even a city agency. Its employees are not city employees, for example. So we do expend a significant amount of money. What I heard yesterday was, well, we've had some discussions with the state, and they may do this and they may do that. Why does the state always get away with that? Why do we spend so much city money on Claiborne Avenue, which is a state thoroughfare, on maintaining homeless encampments under the interstate, which is on state property, on other things that have to do with the jurisdiction of the state? It seems that people don't want to ask the state for assistance in important areas where the state has jurisdiction. Now, we just heard yesterday that within 5 days, 65 people have been transferred to the custody of the state. That means that that's less expenditures for the city of New Orleans, for example, because if you do it on an average per person.
That's new information.
That's new information. It's quite clear. It was yesterday in the paper that 65 people. So the question that I ask is, and I know my voice is getting raised because of what was said earlier, how is that the case? How was it so simple to do those transfers within a week? Why didn't those transfers take place? You asked me about something that came out yesterday that maybe I wasn't totally aware of. The bottom line is that people were transferred. The things that we've been asking about in the past, why would we have anyone in there after the point of when they could be transferred somewhere else? But if we have overcrowding, this is one question that I asked on yesterday. What are we going to do to get down to 1250? Another thing that I heard was
Councilman Green. 1 second. Listen, I appreciate all of the council for availing themselves to us. We have to go to break, but can you stay on the other side of the break so that we can make certain that we flesh this out? I don't want to just cut you off, but I got to go to break. But when we come back, we'll have more conversations with Councilman Eugene Green. Cedric, I see y'all. Take you on the other side. This is WBOK 1230 AM what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Mild and muggy again, along with a few spotty showers early. Partly to mostly cloudy skies with highs on the North Shore in the upper 80s to low 90s and the mid 80s on the South Shore. Showers and thunderstorms for the afternoon, especially on the South Shore, could be heavy at times. As the cold front moves in, expect lower humidity this afternoon and Thursday. Highs remain in the upper 80s to low 90s for the rest of the week on into the weekend. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
This summer, let your child's creativity shine at Camp Art, New Orleans' most vibrant, arts-driven camp experience for kids ages 4 to 12. Hosted by Beyond the Stage, Camp Art blends visual art, theater, music, dance, and creative writing with New Orleans history and culture. Plus, field trips, guest artists, and camper showcases. With full-day programming before and after care and sessions starting June 9th, it's the perfect fit for working parents. Fun, enriching, unforgettable. Register now at BeyondTheStageLLC.com/campart and follow us on social media at Beyond the Stage LLC.
Are you now or ever wanted to be in the biz? The NAACP Hollywood Bureau is proud to present Be in the Biz, a one-day symposium designed to share valuable information and access to some of the entertainment industry's top power brokers, writers, directors, producers, and storytellers from all forms of media. We'll learn about pitching techniques, adapting scripts to screen, collaboration between creatives and other media executives, and all the behind-the-scene roles for creative professionals. Be in the Biz is coming to New Orleans on Saturday, May 31st at Studio B. For more information and to register, visit @Hollywood Bureau on Instagram.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
And we are back. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. We're going to go straight to the phone lines because we are in conversations with our Councilman Eugene Green, and we have Cedric on line 1. Good morning, Cedric. You're on with Councilman Eugene Green.
Good morning to everyone. I'm sure that folk know that according to Louisiana statutes, the maintenance of parish jails, the governing authority of each parish is responsible for the physical maintenance of these jails or prisons. The sheriff yesterday, because I was there, took accountability. The funding or lack thereof funding, the sheriff and her chief financial operator officer, put that up there. I believe that this particular city council as a whole, not individually, but as a whole, they're more reactive than proactive. And it's fair to say that the meeting was going well until the bully of the city council, J.P. Morrell, started his foolishness. I believe that it's imperative upon other city council members when he gets into this mood, because seemingly he has a problem with black women in power. First with the mayor, now with the sheriff. Whether you like any of them or not, they are position holders. Lastly, I want to thank Chief Kirkpatrick, because as she was leaving the rostrum where I was sitting, she looked at the sheriff and she said, "Good luck." And with her body language, you can tell that it was genuine and sincere. This city council is reactive instead of proactive. The city deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Councilman.
Let me mention something else that I learned on yesterday, because you asked about that. And in fairness, I want to tell you one other thing that I learned. I asked if we have a city law, which of course doesn't have much teeth. What are you going to do? That we should be at 1250 and we're at 1486. What are we going to do to get to 1250? I also learned yesterday from the sheriff that based on their present staffing, it should be no higher than 800. So the question is going to be, what are we going to do to get to 800? Or are we going to hire a whole lot more staff members? But remember, the staffing is done through the work of the sheriff's office. So if it's not possible for us to get to that level, such as it's very difficult to get to 1,200 police officers, what are we going to do in the meantime? Well, I assert to you that just as we transferred 65 people within a number of days, we're going to have to do transfers, because we have a very unsafe situation there, both for the person to work there and for the inmates. So what are we going to do? But we learned about that on yesterday. So guess what? I have to be reactive to information that I get on the spot. I didn't know that that was capacity. So now I have to react to that and say, what are we going to do about it? The use of the word reactive is important to recognize. It's important to recognize that sometimes reactive is when you get information, you respond to it. So now we found out yesterday something new that we have to respond to, that even at 1250, we would be 450 people above what the capacity of the jail should be based on personnel. That is new information.
I think Councilman, the sentiment of the reactionary comment is this idea, like the first caller said, that by and large, we've been hearing that there's issues with the jail, that there's issues with safety of the jail, locks on the doors, things that needed to be upgraded. We've been hearing those kinds of things. So I'm just going to say that for me, the reactionary piece is we waited until something as catastrophic as a jailbreak happened to then start talking about the severity of the safety issue with the locks and things that the sheriff has been asking for over time. So that's just to put a little context there, but we do have another caller. Aaron, good morning. You're on with Councilman Eugene Green.
Good morning. How y'all doing? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good morning.
All right. I just want to say, Councilman, this thing is really bigger than the sheriff, right? This governor that we have, he don't give a damn about y'all, neither us. And there's a concerted effort him and his people to come down here and take over this city. Y'all, as the leaders of this city, y'all need to get on the same page and stop allowing outsiders to come in our city and dictate to y'all that whatever they want to get done, that's how it's going to be. We elected y'all to run this city, not Baton Rouge, not the Orange Man in Washington. We elected y'all to run this city. And y'all got to get on the same page, every last one of y'all leaders, because it's too many times y'all keep on pointing the finger, this one, that one, that one, and that one, and y'all not pointing at yourselves. We elected y'all, not nobody else. I'm gonna hang up.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Aaron, we fight on a regular basis. There was a bill before the Sewage and Water Board where a state senator wanted to push for regulatory powers to be transferred to the Public Service Commission versus the City Council having it, which would mean that the decisions relative to rates would be determined by an agency that included people appointed from Shreveport, from Monroe, and the like, and we stood in the way of that. It was withdrawn because we did lobbying and we did a resolution. The governor may come down to the city of New Orleans very often, but the issues relative to the takeover of the French Quarter, for example, are not there. I mean, there's discussion of that. There's something behind the scenes that we always say regarding that. But it's important sometimes to recognize that the governor comes in town because the Sewage and Water Board, for example, when he set up a task force, is an agency of the state of Louisiana. It may have New Orleans in the name. We have regulatory authority relative to rates. But in terms of operations, it's a state agency. So we fight where the fight is necessary, but that doesn't mean that we don't have conflicts relative to what goes on involving the city government. But there's no takeover that's going to happen. Very honestly, the governor's task force suggested a takeover of the Sewage and Water Board, and it hasn't happened because sometimes those kind of things are some things you don't want. I don't think that the state wants a full takeover, for example, of the Sewage and Water Board. So we fight. At the end of the day, we're not letting anybody take over, but the state does have preeminence over the city in many respects. They own many of the assets in our city, the Superdome, the Convention Center, everything along the port, many state thoroughfares, Lakeshore Drive, Claiborne Avenue, St. Claude Avenue, parts of Elysian Fields. They have jurisdiction over a lot that happens in the state of Louisiana. In the city of New Orleans, I'm sorry, well, we don't ask many questions, but the city council does, and we've been asking a lot more about why we expend money on things that are under the purview of the state.
I know that you have to go, Councilman. I appreciate you being here. But can you answer this question for me? Who is the governing authority of the parish of Orleans?
The city council is a governing authority, but let me answer that question in keeping in mind that the state has jurisdiction over much of what happens in New Orleans.
So this is where I'm going with this. So if according to this document that I'm reading, it says the maintenance of parish jails, right? And it says the governing authority of each parish shall be responsible for the physical maintenance of all parish jails and prisons. In those parishes in which the governing authority operates the parish jail, the governing authority shall pass all bylaws and regulations they may deem expedient for the police and good government of the jails and prisons being operated by the parish governing authority. This was amended by Acts 1978, number 200. So what I'm asking is, if this statute holds weight, then what makes the parish jail not under the purview of the council? Instead, it's under the purview of the state.
No. I did not say that we don't have the ultimate responsibility.
Councilman, I didn't say that. You said I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying if this statute holds true, why are we hearing that the building itself is under state? It's a state facility. If what I'm reading holds water,
but
if
Dr.
the
Wyatt,
council is the governing authority.
You didn't hear me say that.
No, I'm not saying you did.
Whoever is saying that is giving you false information.
So it's not a state facility?
We are look, I gotta tell you, maybe it's owned by the state and we have responsibility for it. But my important fact is that we have responsibility for maintenance. We are spending so much money on the third phase that we have had to cut out of NORD projects, for example. We've had to cut back on pools and things like that we want to have to do. Clearly, we have responsibilities for it that we're living up to in many respects. For example, the third phase, which is by $110 million right now, is coming based on mostly payments from the city of New Orleans. We do involve ourselves with maintenance, but it is important to recognize, Dr. Wyatt, that there is a limited amount of dollars that can be invested sometimes, and some things can't be done. But I'm going to tell you what, it should be a little bit easier for us to be able to maintain the building if we get now to the capacity based on what we heard on yesterday. So what are we going to do to get to that capacity of 800? Because right now we're putting workers and inmates in jeopardy by having too many people. We transferred 65 people out within the last 4 or 5 days to the state because of some of the things that happened since Friday. Shouldn't we also be talking about that? What we're going to do to lessen the need to have the maintenance take place?
Well, listen, Councilman, I agree, and I appreciate you being here. You know we have to go. I got to take a break, but I do appreciate you for coming in. And as always, if you want to ever come back to update on us, update our listening audience on what's going on as it relates to the jailbreak or any other things that are happening throughout the city, you know you're more than welcome to come back. But I do appreciate you for joining us this morning. Thank you so much.
All right. And Dr. White, I do want to make it clear to the public that there is work going on that is cooperative work involving the city council, involving the sheriff's office, involving the police department, involving the state police. For example, I was at the site of what was thought that was going to be where they were going to apprehend somebody on yesterday, and there was state and city and state police, New Orleans police, sheriff's office employees all involved with this search. We're doing everything that we can to keep the city safer. So if you see anything, call it in and let us know. And if anyone is listening who's a family member and knows that someone who has escaped is staying, they are in jeopardy and they need to turn themselves in.
Thank you so much, Councilman. We appreciate you. Listen, we have to go to break because we have to hear a word from our sponsors. But on the other side, we'll hear from our partners at Ochsner and Darren Meyer from the Zulu Club talking about the men's health event. Y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
WBOK New Orleans, home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
New Schools for New Orleans is committed to celebrating the hardworking teachers of New Orleans. Thank you to all the educators who came out to the 4th annual NOLA Teacher Fest at Champion Square. We had over 2,000 attendees. Special thank you to our sponsors, Allstate Sugar Bowl, Entergy New Orleans, Raising Cane's, Align Ed New Orleans, Agenda for Children, and Ochsner Children's for their commitment and support. Teachers and school leaders, enjoy the summer break.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is running for Georgia governor. She pledges to expand Medicaid and bring change to the state. Lance Bottoms says she's energized with the launch of her campaign.
I feel great. The momentum has been extraordinary. It's been great to talk about the campaign and to share with people how I plan to fight for Georgia.
If elected, she'd be Georgia's first Democratic governor in over 20 years. Elon Musk will reportedly reduce his political spending. The tech billionaire is planning to give less financial contributions after flowing millions of dollars into the 2024 presidential election and other campaigns. And Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us just made history, becoming the first rap song to spend 52 straight weeks on the Billboard Hot 100. Released last May, it's still going strong at number 22. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Good morning, Wake Up.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my 25-year-old. Happy birthday, Nyron Sanders. Our producer is 25 years old. Y'all throw up some love in the chat for Nyron and my co-pilot this morning, D. Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, New Orleans.
I want to once again thank our councilman for joining us this morning as we continue to have conversations with our council. But more importantly, I want to thank him for availing himself for that extended amount of time to us to answer some of the pressing questions. But right now, we're getting ready to jump into conversation with our partners from Ochsner, Ms. Tanya Moore, the Director of Community Engagement, and Mr. Darren Meyer from the Zulu Club, talking about the men's health event. Good morning, Darren. Good morning, Tanya. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, you woke up, Tanya. Good morning.
A lot.
I see. But welcome to the show. There's this men's health event. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. How are you doing this morning? Who is Darren Meyer?
Club. And again, this is our 4th year partnering with Ochsner to do this men's health event.
Okay, and Ms. Tanya, how are you today? We know that you're the Director of Community Engagement for Ochsner. How important is it with your partnership with Zulu to put on this event for men's health?
It's extremely important because often men's health is the last that we talk about, or they're not going to the doctor as much as women. So we want to make sure that this event is talked about, New Orleans, okay? And we want to make sure that men are getting what they need from a social, mental, and physical well-being. So we definitely want to make sure that we are improving healthcare access and health outcomes, and this partnership with Zulu is definitely important to Ochsner Health. So we look forward to it once again this Saturday.
And so the event, when is it? That's why I was getting ready
It's
to ask.
Saturday.
But Tanya told us Saturday.
Saturday, May
what
24th
time?
from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And where is it being held?
At 732 North Broad at the Glapion Building for Zulu.
Oh, because I was getting ready to say, y'all have facilities, baby, so I know it's probably on the grounds of Zulu, but go ahead, Will.
Yeah. I just want to say that I went to this event last year.
Great.
And I want to assure all men that you don't have to be a part of Zulu or Ochsner to participate in it. It was a very good, casual, informative, educational event. There's opportunity to ask questions. There are panels. I got a lot of good information, caused me to check on some things that I needed to check on. Hadn't heard that before. And I think that's what the event is about. So certainly this partnership has come together to make this available, but it's up to we, the black men, and others to come and receive the information. You can sit and listen. You can take notes. There's some resources that will be available if it's anything like last year. And you can even talk with some of the health professionals in between the sessions. So I got a lot from it, and I just want to encourage others to go.
Well, that's the biggest plug we can get. You're attending, so that's great. I will tell you that I'm 2.5 years removed from prostate cancer.
Oh,
so,
let me ring a bell for you.
Well, so I will tell you, I got this actual prostate cancer awareness pin at that event, and it's important. Screenings are important for everyone, but especially Black men. We're scared to go to the doctor as a community. We're just nervous about going to the doctor. We always feel we have to provide, and we don't take time out for ourselves.
Well, I have two friends, and I still call them friends, but they're no longer on this side of heaven, but they died similarly, a number of years apart, but both of them went to the gym, came home, sat down, died. My second friend just recently died, not even a week. It hasn't even been a week that his funeral service have been held. But for people who believe they're in good health, and that's the reason they don't want to go to the doctor maybe, or you're going to the doctor and the doctor is missing things, because these are two people, if you look at them, they just generally look like they're in good health, and then to just come home and just die. And we always hear it's just heart attack. And I don't know, is there a way, Dr. Moore, because somebody put your handle in the comment, so I want to make certain I respect that. Somebody in the comments said, "Good morning, Dr. Tanya Moore." And so listen, they put your handle in the comments, so I want to make certain that I respect that. So Dr. Moore, when guys are going to the doctor, even women, because heart attack doesn't discriminate, right? Is there a test for that? Like, are there signs that the doctor can be alerted that this person can potentially have heart attack risk factors? How does that work?
So I'll start by saying, yes, I am a recent Dr. Moore, but PhD. I'm not a medical
Listen,
doctor.
but here's the thing. I'm going to ring, and that's even more of a celebration.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
As of Sunday. So,
all right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What school did you? What school did your doctorate come from?
University of Holy Cross.
Come on now.
Leadership.
Come on now. Shout out to Dr. Donaldo Batiste over there at the University of Holy Cross.
That was our director.
How you think I knew that? Congratulations, Dr. Moore. But I guess that's a question for our Ashna partners, and maybe when they come through, the medical doctors come through, I can start to ask those kinds of questions, because it seems to me like that these guys they don't even know that they're at risk for heart attack, because they're doing these strenuous things. Like, my friend worked on a boat. He was a tugboat captain. He went to the gym, came home, and he killed over. And it's like, out of nowhere, his wife was unprepared, and she's a nurse. And they told us that because she was a nurse and she, jumped in as quickly as she did, that gave him the hope that we had that he would survive. But ultimately, he did not. But I just want to know, like, are there risk factors? And maybe we can get those answers at the Men's Health event, huh, Darren?
I would think so. We have various screenings. I'll Tanya, go ahead.
Oh, and that's one of the things I want to talk about, because I am public health as well. And so with this event, this is an opportunity for everyone to know their numbers, specifically men. And I'll go back to that. And thank you, Mr. Will, for attending, because it's important when you talk about the whole body and what we're offering there. You need to know your numbers, right? And so it's important that a healthy diet, lack of a lot of the fried foods and processed foods, you're going to start hearing that a lot, especially as it pertains to cardiovascular and cancer cancer outcomes. And not only that, your blood pressure, your glucose, and cholesterol, we'll be doing that, but we're also going to be doing the prostate test as well, the PSA, which is the prostate-specific antigen. And that test is a blood test, and it specifically looks for signs of prostate cancer, the protein in the blood. So we do that on site. Also, what we'll be doing, and you talked about your friend, we're partnering with the new company this year, BD, Beckham Dickinson and Company. They're going to be there doing peripheral artery disease, which is PAD. That specific screening is usually not available when you do go to your regular doctor's visit. So what that is, it's like a blood pressure cuff to check in your legs and the arm, so your lower extremity and your upper. And so that you can see if there were any blood clots or any blockage that may be occurring, because one thing in African American communities that we see, a lot of leg pain, you hear about amputations that are unnecessary, that are also preventable, and just other ailments that might occur from diet, from lack of exercise, all of those things. So again, we're talking about holistic. And look, the big news this week about former President Biden and his diagnosis of prostate cancer. And so that, it's a great week to discuss this, because men need to make sure they're getting regular cancer screenings and, and think about some of the symptoms: trouble urinating, blood in the urine, bone pain, and unexplained weight loss. Sometimes we're just moving and going and surviving, but not really taking time to understand what the body is trying to tell us. So I'll stop there and leave it open for comment or questions.
I do want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I first learned about that artery check just a few years ago when I went to a health event in Monroe, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And it turns out, if this is true, tell me or not, it turns out that this is a piece of equipment that is not normally found in a lot of doctors' offices. So it's not a part of the routine that they go through with the patient to have this checked, in part because it's not something they have in the office. Is that the case?
That is correct. That is correct. And these are the type of services and organizations and companies that reach out to us saying, hey, we'd like to provide this free of cost and no cost to community. I was like, can you do it for the Zulu Social Aid Pleasure Club event with Men's Health? They were like, we would love to. So we're going to have that there. And I would like to see the line out the door trying to make sure that they're doing that. And, the discussion this week is around mental health and prostate health, men's health, overall health. So I think it's the discussion that we're going to have to talk about, what's going on with the body. We have some great panelists this year to talk about the mental health piece as well. Dr. Brian Turner and Dr. Ariane Mitchell, one of our Ochsner psychiatrists there as well. But the need to have those, the ability to have those type of quality tests that come to the community at no cost, we just hope people will come and take advantage of that. That's what it's about, giving back to the community.
I would like you to mention any other panelists or speakers who will be there, because it was quite rich last year. And I do want to make this point. I do want to make this point about the event. I left feeling loved. And I say that in the context of what Brother Meyer was just talking about sometimes we don't take care of ourselves. We even might talk to each other about, I'm not doing that, that kind of thing. But what made me feel that way was there were sisters who were a part of the panel and part of the program, and they made the point of, it's your body, but we love you, we care about you, we want you to be healthy.
You're correct. That was the case last year, especially the panel was specifically about prostate cancer, and we did have some female doctors on the panel, and they were experts. I think you're right about that. This is a community event. We're concentrating on Black men specifically, but anyone can come, which is the real point of having the Ochsner Bloodmobile will be outside to give blood, because there's a shortage of blood as well. So we want to encourage people to give blood while they're there as well. But the various cholesterol, glucose screenings, PSAs, those are the type of things we want people to get tested for, because early detection is best. That's the best thing. That's the best way to solve any medical condition or possible medical conditions is early detection.
So I do know that this is a men's health event, but I do know there are a number of women associated with the Zulu Aid and Pleasure Club. Are women able to get their
Most definitely.
numbers checked
Most
while they're
definitely.
at the men's health event? I didn't want that to sound like a silly question, so I
It's not.
needed
And
to ask.
we're
It's not a
concentrating.
silly question.
We're concentrating on men, but we have women that come, and we want everyone to come. We've reached out to fraternities, and we've reached out to the 100 Black Men, and we've reached out to Mason Lodges and so forth. And obviously the Zulu members, but we want people to bring others. The idea is for everyone to get tested.
Reach out to the educators.
The educators.
Yeah, their
okay.
numbers
Oh,
are high.
yes.
I guarantee it.
I
It's
guess.
stressful out
Stressful.
there.
Right.
It's stressful out there.
I know you're right.
Yes, that's true. We've been trying to do like every year. Last year, and Mr. Will, thank you for bringing that point up. We had about 80-something men who were in the audience. Last
Oh,
year's
wow.
topic was on men's sexual health, and let me tell you, as a healthcare agency system, we don't just tell people about health and educate. We are also educated by the community. So we learned a lot, right? So, even though we talked about men's sexual health, that's a direct impact of prostate cancer, right? Or some of the symptoms. We heard about gas station purchases of honey, testosterone pills, and other things. We were like, what? And so, just to understand how men communicate as well, and when they talk to each other and the advice that they're given may not always be right. So sometimes we have to address the myths. You have to understand what you're putting in your bodies, because we didn't know the gas station was a pharmacy. So,
So talking about sexual health, do you guys also screen for any sort of sexually transmitted diseases at the men's health event?
We don't actually screen for that. Some of your blood work
Will produce that.
Could
And the only
produce
reason
that,
I'm asking is because, like right now, the HIV numbers are exploding in the city of New
Yeah.
Orleans and in Baton Rouge as well. And so, if we're talking about men's sexual health, I think it's important to understand that if you're giving blood for any of these tests, possibly ask or have your doctor or somebody screen for this, because knowing your status is important. And
I'm
more
glad you
often than not, people
brought that
are
up.
engaging with
Yeah.
folk and thinking they're okay, but because they don't know their status, then you might not be okay, or the person you're engaging with might not be okay. And I don't know why
That
it's
is
so
true.
taboo to talk about your status with people, but hey, you know what I mean? You don't want to get in a car with nobody that you didn't think could drive. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Doc.
And
What
we
you say?
We did have Brotherhood Inc. They did do HIV and STI testing last year, and we hope they are coming back this week. I haven't seen the final list on if they'll be there this year, but hopefully they will be back with us. They usually come every year and provide those screenings. And you're right. There are some recent studies that's showing increase in STI infections among men and women around the ages of 40, 50, and 60, which tend to be ages of, divorce age and going out dating again. So just being careful with again, health choices, what you put in, out your body.
Yeah, I think it's also just a topic that we don't talk about enough, and we are pretty reactive in that conversation, because it's always waiting until something happens for it to be a topic. But I think just constantly putting the know your status thing out there and to constantly talk about it, the way we talk about voting. Like you should vote. You should be registered to vote. You also should know your status. You know what I mean? Like it's all a part of health.
No doubt.
And just understanding, where you stand. And there's a lot of conversations going on right now in the city of New Orleans around HIV, because there's a whole big, and y'all might not know about it, but because it's the it's the community with the music community, the entertainment community in New Orleans. They're having this conversation because people have recently been infected with the HIV virus from folk that they were in partnerships or relationships with. and sharing with other folk who are unaware that these people are infected with this virus. And so it's not taboo to talk about. HIV has been around long enough for us to have open dialogue about it. The same thing with LGBTQIA communities. It's been around long enough for us to have honest conversations about it. Like, it should not be taboo. And I think a lot of the times we are harmed by things we don't talk about.
You're right, Dr. Wyatt.
And
I'm gonna call you by your proper title.
I'm just saying, I think
correct.
We're harmed, and I think in our community, and I know in our families as well, like when trauma happens to us, whether it's, a family member doing something to us inappropriate, we are not taught to talk about it or to bring it. We hide things like that because we don't want other folk to know that that's what we're dealing with. But I think in our community, a lot of preventable things take us out because we're afraid to just openly have dialogue about it. So I'm grateful for these sorts of events, particularly for men, because men think they're Andre the Giant. They think they're invincible. It's okay to get sick. And then y'all act like babies when y'all get sick. Like y'all want to be so strong and heroic, and then you get a little cold, and you in the corner shriveled up. Like what would y'all do without us? Answer that. I don't know. See how I turned that around right quick? Y'all need us.
True.
Well,
we need y'all too, though. I just play a lot a little bit.
You bring up a very good point of needing. And so we asked the audience last year, what would you like to see? Because we don't want to tell you what we want to bring there. We want to hear from the men. Mental health was one of the top pieces of feedback that we heard. And so this year, it will focus on mental health, stress, depression. A lot of this goes undiagnosed among men, and there's a stigma around that. So this year, the Real Talk panel will focus on men and mental health. And so Dr. Ariana Mitchell, clinical psychologist with Ochsner, will be there. She's a young African-American female who is dynamic with children and adults. And then also Dr. Brian Turner, who is the department head of psychology at Xavier University. Quick shout out to BT. And he's dynamic as well in leading that department to great heights. So they will be there, and then our very own Dr. Laborde there to talk about the clinical side, what he sees in the men patients within that clinic. And so this year we also incorporated a little surprise. We're going to have some massages for the men this year as well too. Yes. And
she
so we're going to do
surprise.
that throughout the day.
That line going to be so long.
I'm sorry. Let me make sure I heard this right.
Coming back?
So the event is free. The education and resources are free. And massages that normally cost anywhere from $60 to $120 are free?
That's correct.
First of all, Doc.
The attendees.
First of all, Doc, what time do the massages start?
You're coming,
I need to get there
early. They will start at 10 a.m. We're going to have those going throughout even the panels, so that would be the only thing. But everything else we allow the panelists to speak. We'll have the massages in a separate corner or upstairs so that people can be away, relax a little bit, and unwind.
So, Dr.
Moore.
That's
all part of addressing that mental health piece, right? Everything can't be massaged out, but,
But it sure helps.
Let me say this, Dr. Moore. Let me say this, because, I try to infuse humor in a lot of the things we do here, because it's always so serious, right? But let me say this to the ladies right now. I know y'all accustomed to going to Home Depot because that's where you think the men are going to be. But Saturday at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
at the Glapion building.
At the Glapion building.
That's where all the men in the city will be. So listen, they're getting their numbers checked. You're going to get to see how healthy they are. You know what I mean? Don't go to Home Depot Saturday. Go to the men's health event because that's where the men gonna be.
And if they're going to be there, they're making at least one good step.
Yes,
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like, okay, let's clear the field.
Wonderful promotion. Wonderful promotion.
I'm just saying, you don't act like
treat.
y'all don't see the women hanging around in Home Depot faking like they don't know what aisle the nails on. Them women know we know what aisle is on. We just want you to know that we don't know, so you could come help us. Get that off the top shelf for me, Darren. But no, in all seriousness, though, tell us one more time when and where.
It's going to be Saturday, May 24th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 732 North Broad, the Glapion Building. For the
And
Zulu.
even though it's an event catered to men, specifically for men, women are also allowed, per Darren Meyer.
That's correct.
He's saying you can also come, and hear me when I tell you this. I'm telling you to go. If you're looking for the men, that's where they're going to be, at the men's health event at the Zulu Club.
And we want those women to drag those men in.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you so much,
10
Dr.
a.m.
Tanya
to
Moore.
1 p.m.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tanya Moore. She's the Director of Community Engagement and a recent doctoral graduate from Holy Cross. Congratulations, Dr. Moore. We celebrate you here over on WBOK. We want to shout out Darren Moore, Darren Meyer, too, for joining us this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And if you're within the sound of my voice, the event is happening this weekend, and we're asking you to pull up. What time is that again?
10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Get that 9:50 because they're giving out massages, and you want to be the first one in line. Thank y'all for joining us. We have to go to break to hear a word from our sponsors, but when we come back, we're going to hear from Ben Winger from the New Orleans Health Department Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit talking to us about mental health. Y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
Thank you.
New Orleans, are you ready? A fresh voice in the city is here, bringing you the beats, the culture, and the stories that matter. From local music and food to real talk on what's happening in the streets, we've got you covered. Stay tapped in. Follow us on all platforms at WBOK 1230 for the latest updates and exclusive content. Your city, your culture, your news. Don't just hear about it, be about it. Follow us at WBOK 1230 now.
Good morning and happy Wednesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. Louisiana State Police capture another escaped inmate, meaning 5 of the 10 are still on the run this morning. Troopers found 19-year-old Corey Boyd in the Iberville neighborhood last night. That's not far from the city's French Quarter. We're told Boyd was found near an apartment building. So far, all 5 recaptured inmates have been found in New Orleans. And Governor Jeff Landry had this message on social media after the latest arrest, saying, quote, "Halfway there, we will not slow down. You will all be captured." And those words coming as an audit of the Orleans Parish Justice Center gets underway this week. Attorney General Liz Murrill says that audit will investigate the jail's operations, its staffing, and overall security. We're told there are 119 standards the jail will be rated on, and it will be deemed either compliant or non-compliant. There's no timeline on when those results will be released. Finally, the New Orleans Police Department is looking for leads after a man was shot in the Desire neighborhood. This happened off Chef Mentor Highway near France Road just after 9:30 last night. Police say a man was shot and taken to the hospital by EMS. No other details about a suspect or the victim were given. If you have any information about this shooting or the whereabouts of those escaped inmates, call Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. That's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Hey, New Orleans, look for important changes to your natural gas service. This summer, Delta Utilities takes over for Entergy Gas with a Louisiana-born, Louisiana-based approach to safe, clean, reliable natural gas. No interruptions or rate changes due to the transition, just dependable service and modernized technology to keep you running smoothly. Get to know us at deltautilities.com and stay tuned for more later this summer. Delta Utilities, focused on natural gas, committed to New Orleans.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month by the community scientists at Rise St. James. This month we spotlight phthalates, chemicals added to plastics, especially PVC, to make them more flexible and durable. But there's more. Research shows phthalates may disrupt hormones, affect reproductive health, and contribute to environmental pollution impacting our communities. Join us as we explore how these additives shape our everyday lives and the world around us. For more details, visit risestjames.org. Empower your knowledge with Rise.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning. Wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Welcome back. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my birthday super producer, D. Nyra Sanders, and my co-pilot this morning, D. Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, New Orleans.
We want to once again thank our previous guest, Dr. Tanya Moore, the Director of Community Engagement at Ochsner, and Mr. Darren Meyer from the Zulu Club, talking about men's health event, which is happening this Saturday,
10
a.m. at the Glapion building, which is a Zulu building. So all you got to know is at Zulu. You don't need to know the address. Go to Zulu building.
Right.
10 a.m. Saturday. Get your numbers checked so you can know what your health numbers are. And that is a men's event, but it does not exclude women. So women, pull up too. Bring your husbands, bring your boyfriends, your sons, anybody whose numbers you want to get checked, because knowing is half the battle. Mm-hmm. But right now, we're getting ready to jump into a conversation with Ben Winger from the New Orleans Health Department Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit. He's a program coordinator, and Taisha Davis, the director of MCIU, here talking about mental health. And I remember you coming last time. So thank you again for being here. And mental health is so important. But before we jump into this mental health conversation, I want to say happy 42nd wedding anniversary to Cheryl and Will Sutton. They've been married as long as I've been alive almost. So listen, that is something to be celebrated. So Miss Cheryl, if you're listening, happy 42nd, girl. But right now we're going to talk about mental health. How important is mental health, especially when we are, I believe, we are a trauma-impacted city. And I'm talking about unaddressed trauma, all the way back from Hurricane Katrina. And so we continue to pile trauma on top of trauma without any real intervention. So how important is mental health?
Mental health is extremely important. It kind of regulates everything that's going on. It can affect everything from as minor as the numbers that you're talking about to as major as the day-to-day function. So we really have to kind of address our mental health, put it in check, and keep it in check, essentially.
And what is the purpose or the responsibility of the Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit?
So the Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit serves as the fourth arm of emergency services. We're embedded in 911 to respond to nonviolent mental health calls for those that are having a mental health crisis. A crisis is defined by whatever that person is experiencing. We don't experience that. So essentially, we give that robust response to those in mental health crisis.
So I believe the last time you were here, if I could remember it correctly, didn't you weren't you like recently graduated from something or recently promoted to something? Yeah, they need to keep on promoting you because baby, you stand at the ready with the answers, and I love that for you. And what is your partnership, or do you have a partnership with NOPD? Like, are you guys in tandem reporting to incidents?
Absolutely. So we work very closely with NOPD. Those things that maybe come through the 911 system that may be deemed unsafe, or there's a concern or a question, our partners with NOPD, they go and they secure that scene, make sure that scene is safe, and then provide the appropriate or give us a call so that we can provide the appropriate resources or connection and services. More importantly, I've had the opportunity to be connected with the CIT coordinator, Sergeant Kiara Isaac, who's one of my close partners that I work very close with, so that we can coordinate crisis intervention services for NOPD as well as the MCIU staff.
So can you just walk us through a typical 911 call where you guys would work in partnership with NOPD?
Sure. So a typical 911 call comes through. There's those standard 9 to 10 questions that they answer. And depending on how those questions are answered when someone calls in, depending on the answers they provide, that operator, it kind of goes through a system that dictates or determines, is it an NOPD call first? And so if it's something with an unknown or a low level of violence or anything, NOPD will go out and they would essentially see what's going on. They'll make that determination that person is having some type of mental health crisis, and then they'll notify us via the computer assisted device, the CAD device. They put in a call for service essentially for us.
So just to be clear, it starts with the 911 dispatcher.
Yes.
So that person is asking a series of questions to determine if you guys need to be going on the call with NOPD. But let's say they send NOPD and you guys aren't there, the NOPD can get there and assess it and then say, yeah, we absolutely need MICU on the scene.
Absolutely.
That's how that works. Okay, because I just wanted to know, because we've been hearing, well, there's a case just recently, it wasn't in New Orleans, but there was a case of a kid who had autism, and he was experiencing a crisis, and his parents or someone called, not parents, it was a neighbor who called to say that the kid was having an episode or whatever was going on, but the police pulled up and within moments they opened fire on the kid.
Wow.
And they shot him. Several police officers shot him, and he was literally in crisis. But I believe if they had a system like we have set up, where when you get a call like that, you answer these series of questions, and then you can send out the appropriate response. Because understanding what you're going into, to me, better prepares the officers. It keeps them safe. It keeps the public safe. But everything is not gun shoot. And in that child's case, I believe he would not have been harmed had they had a system that mirrors the one that we have here. So can you share a success story or the moment that really highlights the importance of the work that you do?
Sure. There's several every day.
And I don't want to leave you out. You know that you could jump in anytime.
Right. Yeah,
I like the fact that you always give her the floor and let her shine. That's what I like about you. You going places.
That's several, and then I can turn it over to Mr. Winger every day. But I think the most impactful for us was that there was one where a person was in a car kind of contemplating suicide, right? Refusing to get out. Wasn't really a threat of safety to anyone in the community. So NOPD went out, they secured the scene, made sure that we were safe, and then called us out to intervene with this young lady, an opportunity to be able to really de-escalate her, talk her through the situation, and save her from harm, similar to what you're saying. But we see a various amount. We see the kids with autism, that their stimming can be intimidating, or that their actions or gestures could be intimidating or perceived to be intimidating. So an opportunity to really just get in, provide that education and support, and then just decide the most appropriate interventions to support not that person in crime, but in crisis, but that family as well. Because when a crisis is going on, it doesn't just affect one person; it affects maybe the household or the community or whomever we're serving.
So, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, in your view, how does a service like MCIU contribute to reducing stigma around mental health?
Well, everyone knows that mental health has a stigma attached to it. There are many misconceptions of what mental health is, the words crazy and things like that are attached to mental health. But if you look at it from a scientific perspective, or if you look at it from a medical perspective, the brain is an organ just like your heart, or just like your pancreas. And if you have and they are susceptible to diseases. If you have a pancreas disease, you might have diabetes. So brain diseases, you could have Alzheimer's, or if there's a defect in the organ, you have issues of mental health and perception. The brain is the master organ, and I think and it controls the body and what we perceive. So when people are hallucinating and people are in a crisis, it's really a suffrage, and this city suffers a lot in that area of mental health. Just to give you some statistics on mental health and the MCIU unit, since we started, we've handled over 6,500 calls since June 1st of 2023. We're in our second year. Year to date, we've handled, for the past 12 months, 3,754 calls, and we have a 37% diversion rate. And that's a better than expected diversion rate, because when we first did a pilot program, we were expecting to get 25% to 33% of the call diversion, but we're ahead of the curve, and we're looking to take on even more calls independently. Taisha's unit actually goes on 50% of the calls are independent, and the other 50% are from first responders, primarily the police who train with Taisha through their CIT program. We often do cross-training with other first responders, and even with 911. Taisha teaches at the 911 center, so we are looking to move forward in that area, and things are looking up.
What is an independent call?
Well, an independent call is when you call for 911 and you ask for a unit, you ask for MCIU, or you just say you're in a mental health crisis, or a third party may call and say someone's obviously in a crisis, and the 911 operator will actually dispatch MCIU and not the police. They have the ability to independently.
So both of those calls are 911 calls.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
We have to take a break so that we can hear from our sponsors. But when we come back, we'll continue to have conversation with Ben Winger from the New Orleans Health Department Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit. He's the program coordinator, and Ms. Taisha Davis, the director of the MCIU. We're here talking about mental health and how to respond. I mean, it's just the response to it, right? We have to remove the stigma so that people are more comfortable being able to get the access to the health care that they actually need. So y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Mild and muggy again, along with a few spotty showers early. Partly to mostly cloudy skies with highs on the North Shore in the upper 80s to low 90s and the mid 80s on the South Shore. Showers and thunderstorms for the afternoon, especially on the South Shore, could be heavy at times. As the cold front moves in, expect lower humidity this afternoon and Thursday. Highs remain in the upper 80s to low 90s for the rest of the week on into the weekend. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
The National World War II Museum. Located in the Warehouse District of New Orleans, the National World War II Museum tells the story of America's experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. Visit them online at www.nationalww2museum.org for time tickets and safety information.
Saints of God, it's time for us to tell you the truth. It's time for you to start your 21-day challenge. Don't take another day. Do it right now. Call 504-701-4711. That's the Whole Water Stove, Pastor David M. Partan Sr., the host of Change Your Water, Change Your Mind. This is the water that's designed to change your body, the way you think, the way you act, and the way you look. Why don't you start your 21-day challenge today? For $35, you can start it right now. Call me so we can set up your appointment. 504-701-4711. That's 504-701-4711. Change your water, change your mind.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta White. Shout out to my super producer, Nyron Sanders, and my co-pilot this morning, D. Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning.
Right now, we are in conversation with Ben Winger from the New Orleans Health Department Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit. He's the program coordinator. And Ms. Aisha Davis, director of the MCIU, here talking about mental health. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Yeah, so who can call MCIU? And how can people access the service? So does it only have to come from like a 911 operator or?
Yes. So anybody can call if it's the person in crisis themselves, family, community members, providers, etc. It does come through the 911 call center.
So your number is routed through 911, or you call 911 to get you?
They call 911 to get us. Just be clear and concise. That's what we usually say. Provide as much and accurate information as possible. The least little things that we think are little sometimes make a big difference in determining what response is needed. So the more information you have is great, but if you don't have that particular information, that's great too. Just call, ask for help, and
people can provide their name and
phone
number, but they don't have to.
Absolutely. Like whenever you call 911, you just give what you're comfortable with giving or what you know, and we'll deal with the rest on the back end of it.
So my question escaped me because I was about to ask it, but it literally went out my brain. But I guess what I want to know is when you call 911 as a layperson, right? And I'm thinking that my relative or loved one is in crisis. Is the word crisis enough? If I'm like, he's in crisis, or should I say something like, because I'm thinking about this kid that was shot by police. And what bothered me about the whole thing is you're a neighbor. Certainly you should know that there's a kid that has some exceptional services that are provided to him. So you should know if he's trying to be violent or if this is a crisis, right? So is saying the word crisis enough to get you to come with NOPD to the scene? And is NOPD trained to the level that you are to be able to assess?
So the word mental health crisis is always like, we want to be clear on putting what type of crisis it is when we know or when we speculate. And it's fine to say, I assume, I presume, I'm thinking, or something like that. I know the history of this kid. He has autism. That would be fair. And then the second part to your question was that is NOPD trained? Of course, they're our first line of defense. They're our responders, but they're trained on all these topics, but their specific area is how to do police work. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So going on to the Southern University at New Orleans to get that master's degree.
I remember that's what that was. That's what you were getting the last time you were here.
In social work to kind of lead and guide these interventions. So it's a little bit different. We look at things from a different lens, but ultimately.
I guess what I mean by training is like, are you going, because I know you are well versed in how to spot these things. So are you doing like specific professional developments for them, just to kind of give them. I don't expect them to have the degree you have. But just like, how they send us to conferences, right?
Absolutely.
If they send a lead teacher to a conference, all 100 teachers not going to go, but she'll come back and do the
training,
for
right?
everybody. So are you providing
Absolutely.
that sort of service to NOPD?
Yes. So in our partnership with Sergeant Kiara Isaac, as I said, who's my partner, my right hand,
you always shouting her out. Shout out to you.
We get an opportunity to cross train, collaborate. So sharing the clinical knowledge and expertise with them has been in place, I would say, over the last year and a half since she's been in her position. So an opportunity for them really to get it from a clinician and really on hands. I typically go to in-service when they're available, or her CIT coordinator classes that she holds. So yes, it has
Let
been
me tell
very
you something.
important.
If anybody from Southern University at New Orleans is listening, y'all should put it on y'all brochures for y'all's program. What's that program you went through?
Masters of Social Work.
Y'all should put it on y'all's brochure
absolutely.
for them, because I'm trying to tell you, she's an ambassador for this program, and she don't even much know it.
Especially with this work.
That's just my opinion.
Especially
though.
with this work.
Who am I? I mean, I have the mic, so I'm putting it out there. If you are associated in any sort of way with Southern University at New Orleans, and you're trying to up the numbers in that program, this is who you need to go out and have her talking to help enrollment and recruitment.
Dr. James Ammons, we're talking to you.
But when we were on break, you wanted to salute and shout out some folk who helped make this work possible for you guys. So let's shout them out right now.
Okay, I'd like to first of all let you know that the Mobile Crisis Unit has a actual website with the health department at NOLA.gov. That's NOLA.gov/MCIU, where you can view our dashboard. We have a Power BI dashboard, so you can look at the stats and what the crisis unit is doing. So those stats that I've given you are all on the dashboard at that website. And also, I'd like to let the public know that we do have a mobile crisis intervention unit community advisory board, and you can contact our community advisory board at info@mciucabcares@gmail.com. That's mciucabcares@gmail.com. And our CAB is a group of volunteer community members tasked with representing the voice of the community regarding mental health crises and emergency services, and building partnerships between the community and its first responder agencies. So we do want the public involved. We do use this CAB to help guide MCIU in its integration into the 911 system as well. So come on out, and we are also looking to recruit CAB members as well.
And you're saying CAB as in CAB?
Yes.
CAB. Okay.
Yes, that's Community Advisory Board for MCIU.
And last but not least, I want to shout out the 25 staff members that I have, the MCIU First Responder Crew, and then my co-pilot, Mr. Jonathan English, who is my assistant director, and Shakandra Reese, who's my clinical manager that makes this everyday work.
Very good. So this is an opportunity for members of the community to get involved when there's no crisis.
Before the crisis.
To anticipate
right.
what can be done to prevent crisis, and then what to do from a community perspective without having the knowledge and education and experience that you all have. But they want to be involved.
Being involved, how to support those that we may see in the community in crisis, educate other community members about, hey, this resource is available. Just really the community's voice about what does the community think we need to help support this ongoing approach to it, or if they've experienced us and had services from us, right, so that the community can hear that feedback. So it serves in a dual, multi-role, multi-capacity, but the opportunity is because we want this to be a community-driven program, and so being embedded in the community, the boots on the ground, hearing back from the community is very important.
Well, listen, I want to thank both of you guys for being here with us this morning. Shout out to Ben Winger from the New Orleans Health Department and Miss Taisha Davis, the director of the MCIU, here talking about mental health. Are there any events that are coming up that you want our listening audience to know about, or?
They can always stay tuned to the website. We'll post it on the website. We do have a few more events coming up. I know on May 31st, we're teaming up with Oliver Thomas's group to canvas the East and share information and just do a community-wide outreach. But we've had multiple events throughout the month. We've really targeted various population. We started with our little ones, and we just continue. But we don't just stop in May. We continue throughout the year. But if anyone wants to reach out to us to do something specific for their organization, their community, education, whatever it is, you can always give us a shout out. My email address is Taisha, TYESHA.Davis at rahd.org. Again, it's Taisha, TYESHA.Davis at rahd.org. And we're real and relevant. So we keep it real. And
real and relevant. I like
All
that.
right.
But on that note, I want to thank you for being here. I want to shout out again our previous guest, Councilman Eugene Green, Ms. Tanya Moore, the Director of Community Engagement at Ochsner, and Mr. Darren Meyer from Zulu, and our current guest, Mr. Ben Winger from the New Orleans Health Department, and Ms. Taisha Davis, Director of the MCIU. It's been quite a show. But listen, y'all stay tuned up next for the Front Porch. We're grilling the Kimber. But as far as the Good Morning Show, Dr. Ashanta White, Will Sutton, and Ira Sanders, we're going to see y'all tomorrow. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.